A friend of mine said, somebody needs to do even more, to get the word out about Maryland. The number of African American women that broke 3 hours after that documentary, more black women broke 3 hours in like the 3 years than the previous 30. And I always tell runners is you never ever know who you are impacting, and who you are influencing. If you're just out there just doing your thing, they see you out there consistently, like, running at that particular park or running around that lake. So you are having an impact on people without you even realizing it.
Welcome to the Safe Space Running Podcast, where we're here to encourage, enable, and empower. I am truly honored to have today's guest, the co-founder of the National Black Marathoners Association and the executive director, Tony Reed. Tony, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Busy, but I'm doing great.
Busy is a good problem to have, I think. They tell me that at work, but I don't know if that's always a good thing to do. Sometimes I just want to coast it, but being a necessity is not a bad thing. So I can understand being busy, that's for sure. Before we dig into the conversation, what do you have planned this year for any kind of racing or walking, any kind of marathons, half marathons, 5Ks? What's on your list for this year, if any?
I actually don't have any races on my list for this year. It's it's interesting in that racing is a very, very distant second for me to averaging running, walking, and crawling 3 miles a day. So when I was about 8 years old, I was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic, and the doctor said I would go on insulin by the time I was a teenager.
Wow.
And I went to a high school where it was mandatory, not optional, but mandatory that everyone participate in sports for 2 out of the 3 seasons. And then that third season, you had to take PE. So I ended up not having to go on insulin, but we didn't really understand the reason behind it. Then in college, I read Aerobics, the book Aerobics and New Aerobics by Dr. Kenneth Cooper. And he had a statement in there where it was that diabetics who are dependent on insulin could decrease their insulin intake or go completely off of it if they maintain a fitness program. So in 1976, I made a lifetime goal of averaging running, walking, or crawling 3 miles a day.
Wow.
And I have kept, I know you can't see it over here, but handwritten running journals from
Holy crap.
1979, this 79 to 2000. My other one here is 2001 to 2020. But
Wow.
I've averaged 3 miles a day since 1979. I'll be 71 this year, and I'm still not on insulin.
You don't look
So,
71 to me. You look great.
well, thank you very much. Keeping up that 3 mile average is much, much more important to me than running races.
That's completely fair. I think you've earned your stripes, give or take. You may have done a couple of marathons here and there over your lifetime. You may have earned your time to just coast in that. Even then, like I said, a 5K a day is tough. I've tried streaks before. My body just tears up from it. So those who are, continuing those streaks, so much kudos to you for that.
Well, I'd like to say that it's averaging 3 miles a day, not running 3 miles every day. So I feel that being able to rest is just as important as running. So I don't run every day, but I will average, 3 miles a day. So I'll run anywhere from 3 miles all the way up to even 18 miles, even if I don't have a marathon on my schedule. Maintaining the flexibility. And also not running if I ran every day to try to make a streak, that would put more pressure on me. And I like running to be something that will take pressure off of me.
That makes sense.
So trying to maintain a streak, that's pressure.
I like that. I've never personally, because my body can't hold up to it, but I like my rest days is typically Mondays. And it's the best day of the week for me because I know I don't have no obligations. I don't have to go fix and rearrange my whole entire schedule to get a long run in or nothing like that. I just know Monday is here. I can do whatever I want, and I like that. I like that approach to that. I like that a lot. So leading into, again, this is part of our, this is the last episode of the Black Excellence series, and it's been such a journey interviewing, all these different people. And again, I'm truly honored to have you as a part. For those who have not, those of us, Black Americans, if you've ran America, if you've ran a marathon, there is a very good chance that you've heard of the National Black Marathoners Association. And this was started back in 2004. So my first question to you, Tony, is what made you start this kind of program and, looking at its end result from there to now?
Well, that's a good question. So professionally, I've always worked in information technology,
Mm.
and I was speaking at the Black Data Processing Conference in Chicago in 2002, and I happened to have made the statement that I had a goal of running 50 marathons before I turned 50,
Wow.
and I was up to 47 marathons. So bear in mind, at that time, I ran my first marathon in 1982,
Mm.
and I only knew personally just 4 or 5 other marathoners that were black, and I had trained 2 or 3 of them.
Wow.
So I had been going from 82 to 2002, basically running marathons by myself.
Mm.
And I just never really thought that having run by then 47 marathons was a big thing because I was just averaging a couple of marathons a year. So after I finished speaking, a group of blacks came up to me and said, "We've never met anyone who's run as many marathons as you have.
Mm.
And, we happen to run marathons. And, when you get ready to run your 50th marathon, let us know and we'll come and join you." So I was like shocked. It's like, really?
Yeah.
So it took me a couple of more years before I got up to that number 50. And, I let them know and they all came. And it was a very small marathon.
Mm.
Usually I was the only black in the marathon. And that particular year, every black who showed up either ended up winning an age group or weight division trophy.
Mm.
And we were just saying, hey, it would be pretty cool, if we could, meet up once a year someplace around the country, just try to pull as many blacks together as we could. And, find some place where there's a marathon and half marathon. I'll just kind of get together once a year. So it took a couple of years, but I finally went ahead and filed all the paperwork and got everything together and got the National Black Marathoners Association off and running. So back then we were conscious of the fact that there were a lot of runners who didn't want to be involved in politics, so to speak, running politics.
Mm.
So we said, we don't care if you belong to a running club or if you don't belong to a running club. Uh, we're not going to try to have black running clubs all over the country. One, because we couldn't manage it because all of us were volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're just going to be kind of open to everyone, very laid back, and just try to bring as many of us together as we could. And the first summit that we had, I was actually concerned if we were going to have any racial problems
Mm.
because I was getting email and things from people left and right. And I didn't share that information with the race director. But it's kind of interesting. Every year since 2005, when we had our first summit, the race has always ended up setting a record for the most number of people attending the race that particular year.
Wow.
So I can truly say we have had an impact, on the different places where we have ultimately held our summits.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, what we started doing is we started focusing on education, uh, letting more blacks know about the accomplishments of other black distance runners, basically trying to provide role models for
Mm.
for other African American distance runners. At the starting line of my first marathon in 1982, there were only 4 or 5 blacks in the entire marathon. This was a Cowtown marathon, so 4 or 5 blacks out of about 400 or 500 runners.
Wow.
And as I was standing in the starting area, the white runners around me didn't know anything about me, started telling me that I happened to be in the wrong race. and that I
Wow.
probably should have been running the 10K,
Wow.
but they didn't realize that I was a student of Black history, and I'm also from St. Louis, and I
Mm.
happen to have known that in 1976, Dick Gregory ran from L.A. to New York City over 71 days, averaged over 40 miles a day.
Wow.
So he's also from my hometown.
Hmm.
And I reasoned if Dick Gregory can do over 40 miles a day for 71 days, what's 26.2 miles in just one day?
One day. Yeah.
And back then, the prevailing wisdom was if you couldn't run a marathon in under 4 hours, don't even sign up for it.
Mm.
So this wasn't one of these things where you just kind of halfway train and
Hmm.
fake your way through it. You were running. And so I finished that first marathon in 3:59.
Awesome.
Got my sub 4 hour marathon. And because of my knowledge of history, it's like, I was able to go ahead and make it on through. So with the National Bike Marathoners Association, we started the National Bike Distance Running Hall of Fame. And we also gave out what we call achievement awards to our members for finishing marathons in 50 states, 7 continents, world marathon majors. Uh, even though we have marathoner in our name, over 60% of our members had never run a marathon.
Hmm.
They were primarily half marathoners and 5 and 10K runners. But we've always been welcome to everyone. But it's something when someone would go to our earlier summit and they would start talking about running marathons in all 50 states, and we would say, "Oh, that guy over there, Alfred Claiborne, was the first Black to do it back in 1999."
Wow.
And they're like, "Well, what?" I said, "Oh, yes." And then today you have a lot of people doing the World Marathon Majors.
Hmm.
And before that, the big thing was doing 7 continents. So running marathons on all 7 continents. So I'm the first Black in the world to run marathons on all 7 continents.
Wow.
And when I ran on the 7 continents, I was either the only Black in the race or the only Black in the tour group.
Mm.
And I literally told myself if there were at least three of us, three others, we can play bid, whist, or spades, during the trip.
Right.
And well, once I crossed the finish line, this was in 2007. That kicked off African Americans doing international races.
Mm.
In fact, a lot of our members would say, "Hey, I always wanted to do an international race, but I didn't want to go by myself."
Hmm.
And so as a result of that, we started arranging international summits every other year.
Hmm.
And that just really broke the door open for African Americans pursuing international running goals. So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, up until about 7 years ago, for example, there weren't any
Mm.
Blacks who had run half marathons in all 50 states. And we
Mm.
started a little competition about that to see who was going to be the first one to do it.
Oh, shoot.
So, and one of our members recently ended up doing 5Ks, 10Ks in all 50 states, and now she's
That's
going around
awesome.
doing half marathons in all 50 states.
Hmm. That's really cool. I think, and you mentioned the international summit. We first met officially down at the One City Marathon for sure, um, and that was the national meetup for that year. But it just so happened that the same year Sydney had the national or the international meetup, and to say that it was an experience to go in there and see a collection of excellence. There were so many people who came in, this is my 6 star, this is my 7 star. They're coming in with their 6 star medals of all types. People, and that's what made it so beautiful. It was runners and walkers of all shapes and sizes. It wasn't anybody who fit a perfect frame or fit a perfect body. But of course, for me personally, just seeing everyone in there Black. And again, I know the National Black Marathon
Yeah.
has always been open for everyone. And you've made that clear, and and I've seen that in the different materials. But it's one thing to see people look like you, do great things, and be in the space with them and share experiences and learn from their experiences, and really just to share in that space with them me and my wife was just flabbergasted is the only word that's coming to mind. But it kind of goes to my next question for you, because not only did you really help orchestrate and gather us together, you also have done two different documentaries that really highlighted the importance of long distance running for African Americans. The first one being the Breaking 3 Hours Trailblazing. My words have been awful today. Trailblazing African American women marathoners. I actually was able to watch that at the One City Summit, which was really cool to see. And then you also have another one, We Are Distance Runners: The Untold Stories of African American Athletes, which I haven't. It's on my bucket list to watch later on. But I bring that up because my next question being is, why was it important to document these stories and share them with the world for you?
That's a good question. I A friend of mine and I saw Marilyn Bevans being inducted into the National Distance Running Hall of Fame.
Mm,
And she had previously been inducted. She was one of the first inductees into the National Bike Distance Running Hall of Fame in 2013.
wow.
So that's when I first got an opportunity to meet and talk to Marilyn. And at the was it 2020, I think it was, or 2019, when she was inducted into the National Distance Running Hall of Fame, a friend of mine said, somebody needs to do even more, to get the word out about Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turned and looked at me and said, like, someone needs to do a documentary on her.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, sign.
Now, this was during a 3,500-mile road trip that I was
Mm,
on. And so I ended up, she was inducted in Orlando, Florida. I ended up going all the way up the East Coast. And all along the way, I was stopping and talking to people. For example, we talked to Sika
mm-hmm.
and was talking with her about this crazy idea for a documentary. Uh, Went to the Washington, D.C. area, which is where the RRCA is based,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of talked to them about it, then made my way on up to Baltimore, Maryland, where I was talking to Marilyn about it, then on up to New York City, talked with a friend of mine who's with New York Road Runners, on up to Boston, where my brother lives, talked to the BAA, uh, made my way back around to Cincinnati, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
where I knew the race director of the Flying Pig and talked with them about it, on to St. Louis, which is my hometown, and back around to Dallas.
Woo!
And by that time, I had this vision for this particular documentary. Because at that time there were, was it 17, 17 or 18 black women born in the U.S. who had run a marathon in under 3 hours.
Mm,
And of that number, I knew 8 of them.
wow.
And Sika was supposed to be the original narrator for the documentary.
Hmm.
But she was so motivated and inspired, she ended up breaking 3 hours. And I says, well, I have to scratch you as being a narrator, but I do want you to be in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Sika ended up being in the film. And so I basically did a lot of studying, a lot of homework, a lot of research. Got with Gary Corbett from the Ted Corbett Institute, and it was real interesting. He introduced me to several documentary directors,
Mm,
and they said, yeah, we'll give you, some of our time. So I'm sitting there, and this was when the pandemic had started.
mm.
So I'm talking to this one director, Judd Ehrlich, and during the Zoom meeting, I'm kind of look behind him and I see his 2 Emmys sitting on a counter. And I'm thinking, this guy's won Emmys. And he's
Mm-hmm.
taking his time to talk to me about, writing and directing a film. So it was quite an experience going through it all.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It opened a lot of doors, and this is something people just truly don't realize. But the number of African American women that broke 3 hours after that documentary, more black women broke 3 hours in like the 3 years than the previous 30,
Oh my God, that's amazing.
because it just truly put it out there. Uh, the second documentary, We Are Distance Runners, came about because a lot of people did not realize all the different things African Americans were doing in distance running. They didn't
Hmm.
know that we were into trail running. They didn't know that we were into ultra marathons. Uh, that we were, literally in everything from the mile all the way up through the ultra marathon, and that was the original title of it, actually.
Mm.
And as I looked at my life and looked at the individuals who actually touched my life and got me interested in the distance running, and it all started in the third grade with me happening to have met uh, Ron Gregory,
Mm.
who was a cross country coach at Soldan High School, which was across the street from the elementary school where I was going to, and my mother was the principal secretary at Soldan.
Mm.
And he would have the cross country runners running up like 4 stories inside, loop around the top floor, go down 4 stories of stairs on the other side. And for me, being a third grader, watching these guys just run laps up and down the stairs was super impressive.
Mm.
And I told myself, gosh, one day, if I ever get a chance, I want to get into this cross country thing because it looks to be pretty interesting.
Hmm.
And so he ended up again, uh, and years later when he and I were talking, he said, I had no idea that I had that impact on you in the third grade as
Mm.
an 8-year old.
Wow.
And I said, hey, between you and your brother, I said, I have no idea where I would be today.
Hmm.
And I always tell runners, is you never ever know who you are impacting,
I yes.
and who you are influencing. If you're just out there just doing your thing, they see you out there consistently, like, running at that particular park or running around that lake. Is that you are having an impact on people without you even realizing it.
Hmm. Totally agree with that. I've noticed that. I find that people who plant seeds sometimes don't know. I'm always a big person to tell people, tell people what impact they've had on your life, because you never know who's watching. You never know who's, as you mentioned, you could be running a park daily, and someone sees that. Someone sees that effort, and even tying it back to the documentaries, watching again, sitting at the One City. That was my first time actually getting to watch the documentary in its fullest, and just seeing their stories, their struggles, listening to Mary Blevins talk about her, the trials and tribulations that she went through, the different facets of racism and things like that, and still accomplishing what she did. It took it took that to really light the importance of, for me, how important it is to run a marathon as a black male or as a black American. It just shows that doing marathons is not as common as most people think. A lot of us,
Right.
in this space are so used to it and that's all we see. But in the real world, it's not that common. But I personally can say that watching that one really helped light a spark for me to really take it serious, to take it and appreciate it for those who've paved the way prior to. You know, that's what's been really important for me in all of that.
Well, I actually have a third documentary
Uh oh, did
that
I missed?
that
Oh
came
no,
out.
no.
Well, no, this one actually came out last month, and
Oh,
right
okay,
and right now it's actually going through the film festival process,
nice.
and it's picked up 7 awards so far. But
Congratulations.
the name of it is she quietly ran into history,
Mm.
and it's the story about Marilyn Bevins. It's a documentary short.
Mm-hmm.
So last year when I was up at Boston, I was talking with Sarah Franklin from the Ted Corbin Institute,
Yeah.
and I was talking about, Marilyn Marilyn Bevins has done some truly amazing things that people just never really kind of put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and I was doing further research, and I said I found out that Marilyn Bevins is the first person, male or female, black or white, who placed in the top 5 of the 3 major U.S. marathons: Boston,
What?
Chicago, and New York.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Not only did she do that, she came before the African women.
Mm.
Because when you think about fast black marathoners, or when you just think about fast female marathoners, you think about the African women.
Mm-hmm.
She did everything before them by almost 19 years.
Wow.
So after Maryland placed in 1977 at both Boston and Chicago, another black woman didn't place in the top five
Wow.
for almost 19 years.
Wow. That just
And,
shows you that it just shows the importance of us remembering our history and having storytellers to tell that story. You know, to have us remember those, because I love the title of that and how I never would have known that. You know, but I think it's so important for people like yourself who've gone out and made these opportunities for us to learn and have a historical piece that we can take that's tangible, that's something we can refer to later down to remember we've been doing great things for decades, to your point, and that's phenomenal.
and to put it in perspective, um, she did this before they had sports bras for women,
Mm,
before they had women's running shoes. She had to buy men's running shoes.
mm,
Before there were GPS watches with heart rate monitors, pace. You know, you can see your pace. You can see all of this.
mm-hmm.
She didn't have any of that. They didn't even have water bottle carriers back then.
Whew.
And so one of the reasons why I know all of this, except for the sports bra, I was running cross country back in 1969.
Mm,
So yeah, none of that stuff existed. And you have Marilyn out here breaking 3 hours in marathons, being the first. She was the first black female elite international marathoner.
wow. She's truly a stuff of legends, to say the least. And again, it goes to show your sight to seeing that your foresight and understanding the importance of having her story told. And I think that
And
that's a perfect segue into my last question for you, because again, we've talked about, you know, inspiration. We've talked about, you know, lighting that spark for people. And a good core of our audience is, you know, runners and walkers who've never done it before, who are looking into their first, you know, 5K, to their first marathon, to ultra, whatever may be the case. It's their first time getting involved. What would be one piece of advice you would give them as they start that journey?
have fun.
Mm,
Uh, to me, a lot too many people make running work. You know, they
mm,
make it difficult. You want to ease into it. Uh, I guess I was fortunate in that once I started distance running, um, I met some old guys who were running,
mm,
and I can remember running at. Well, I live here in Dallas, so running at White Rock Lake, which is a 9 mile loop, and I was young, buff, in my 20s, and I'm running along with this guy, and we're going from 8 minute miles down to 7:45, 7:30, 7:15, and we're talking. And his guy's name was Dick Granger,
mm.
and this guy was like in his 60s,
Wow.
and I'm like, what are you doing, running this fast at that age? And all I could do was say, I want to be like that when I get old.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And it was all about taking care of yourself. You know, like I said, get your 8 to 9 hours of sleep. You know,
Mm-hmm.
listen to your body. Know when it's time for you to take a break and time for you to relax. Uh, it's funny, even though I've run 132 marathons, I had a very long range goal, a very long range, a lifetime goal and
Mm,
plan. Uh, I said that I only wanted to, I only ran 2 marathons a year, literally for the first 20 years,
mm,
with my goal being for this 20-year period, I was going to take care of the family, take care of my kids, take care of everyone else. As soon as his last kid got out of the house, I wanted to be healthy enough to enjoy myself.
mm.
And that is when everything else took off. Running marathons in all 7 continents, running marathons in all 50 states. But it was all about me pacing myself and not burning myself out.
Mm.
We like to say people get injured because they violate the three twos. They go too fast, too far, and too soon.
Mm.
So, kick back. If you're just starting out, don't increase your mileage by more than 10% every other week. Just kind of ease into it. A lot of people just want to just kind of jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Uh, as a distance running coach, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to run a marathon," uh, first thing I'm going to ask them is, "How many miles have you run in the previous 12 months?"
Mm.
And the magical number I'm looking for is 1,000 miles. Because if you've run 1,000 miles in the past 12 months, that meant you have worked running into your lifestyle. That means
Mm.
you have gone through all 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You have run up and down hills. The people around you are used to you running, and they're going to be supportive of you while you're training for this marathon. And unfortunately, a lot of people will jump into it. They'll go to the internet, they'll find a little training program,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll take off and they'll start training for a marathon. But what they don't realize is that, what's the statistic? Something like over 80% of the people who start a marathon training program never make it to the starting line of the marathon.
Mm. Wow.
And it's because they don't have a base.
Yeah, my favorite phrase is, running requires respect, and it just shows that it's not a matter of, yeah, running will always keep you honest, and you
Yes.
can't just say I'm gonna go run a marathon. It doesn't work that way. I've always, even when I ran track, people would, talk trash, whatever. Once your foot hit that ground and you start the race, there ain't nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do. Your body will tell you whether you can do it or not. But I love the
Yes.
aspects of both having fun and the mindset of just being prepared and putting in the work. Those are very consistent and really sound words to go by. Now, my last point, which is not even a question, but more so, I want to, speaking literally, personally speaking, I have to say again, I've talked about it before, but you're an inspiration to so many. You have touched so many lives in the work that you've done over the years, in just your own personal journey, accomplishing over 100, just 100 plus marathons. That's insane. I'm still, I'm on number four coming up, but 100 is absurd. But going to that to organizing and creating the National Black Marathoners Association, to cultivating a space for us to gather together to celebrate each other and to speak with each other and learn from each other, to you creating documentaries to highlight individuals and share and keep our stories in the forefront rather than letting them be lost to time and space. You've done so much for the sport, and it goes beyond saying that, me personally have been touched and inspired by you. Just like your third grade teacher said, he didn't know, or not just your their coach when you was in third grade. Let me make sure I get that right. Said I didn't know you've impacted myself that way, into where, even the way safe space has been styled nowadays, to where we are creating, many podcast episodes or like slightly smaller documentaries to really celebrate and honor ours out here. You are a result of that. And I'm sure I'm speaking for many of us out here who's gone into the digital space of storytelling, podcast telling. Your fingerprints is all over those. So I want to say, personally speaking, and again, obviously, others see it. You're getting recognized at Boston Marathon with the banner, and I digress. But I want to say that you are truly a pillar in this running and walking community. And I personally thank you for you giving your time, you giving your effort, your space to allow us to succeed. You literally stepped and you made our walking paths easier because you walked those walks already. You've already laid the stones down for us to go and walk behind and learn and lead by, and you've led by example. So I can't thank you enough for all that you've done. I truly believe without you being here, I don't think I'd be here in this space, and all that said, thank you so, so much.
Well, I would like to thank you
Oh,
also, because the reason that I retired from being the executive director was because I had worked myself out of a job. Because when individuals, I'm serious, when individuals such as yourself step up and you form these running clubs, and you're out here doing a podcast, you're out here doing the interviews, that meant I could finally sit back and retire.
Oh,
Because in 2004 there were only 5 black running clubs in the entire country.
wow.
Now you can go to just about any major city and you can find 5 clubs or 5 running crews. uh,
Hmm.
you have the podcasters out there. I mean, none of that existed in 2004. And I was talking with, in fact, I was actually talking with my brother a few years ago when he retired from the nonprofit he was working at. And I said, what's going on? He goes, I worked myself out of a job. And that literally had me looking at what was going on in the running community, and
Mm.
asking myself, well, what more can I add to it? And it was the documentaries, which really elevated everything. And then it's like, okay, I can sit back and retire. I have worked myself out of a job. So I'd like to thank you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have more time to spend with my grandkids.
Look, the grandkids are pretty important. I'm with you on that. I love me some kids. I know my grandmother would agree with that statement altogether as well.
And
But I
that
hope that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that reminds me, when people see the medals,
Hmm.
what they don't realize is that for years, those were toys
Oh,
for
look
my
at that.
grandkids. They would literally come into my office. I had literally had all these medals in boxes, and
Mm.
they would just pull the boxes out and just start playing with them. So it wasn't until they got older that I just said, well, let me just go ahead and throw them up on the wall. But yeah,
That is
these were toys for so many years.
that is precious. That is I love that. And I can't thank you enough for your time. And I hope and pray that the legacy you've left behind for us in terms of documenting, and highlighting our people and such. I hope we make you proud. And that's I don't like I said, I'm honestly at a loss for words just because I'm blessed to have this conversation with you. I'm blessed to be able to talk with you and learn more about you. So again, thank you so much for your time today.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and thank you for taking over my job.